Gyere a Karib-tengerre. Házasodj és szaporodj. Férfi ruházat. Ne gondolkodj. Zárva. Vásárolj. Ne gondolkodj. Ne ébredj fel. Hódolj.
Köszönöm.
Kösz szépen.
Vásárolj. Ne gondolkodj. Ne ébredj. Vásárolj. Hódolj. Nézd tévét. Engedelmeskedj. Ne ébredj fel. Vásárolj. Ne ébredj fel. Nézd tévét. Vásárolj. Engedelmeskedj. Vásárolj. Hódolj. Nézd tévét. Ne ébredj fel. 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 Engedelmeskedj. Engedelmeskedj. Ne ébredj fel. Ne legyenek kérdéseid.
Mi baja van? Azt kérdem, mi baja van?
Conspiracy theories and accusations of fake news routinely fly in some quarters across the political spectrum, and particularly in the Twitter feed of the current U.S. president. Such talk feeds a climate of misinformation and even disinformation. And if that's not unnerving enough, a new book by Nina Schick exposes a whole other level to this problem. It's called Deep Fakes, The Coming Infocalypse, and it brings Nina Schick to our virtual studio tonight from London, UK. It's great to meet you. Nina, how you doing?
Good to be with you, Steve.
Well, I do want to start with the two words of the title of your book, which may be unfamiliar to our viewers and listeners, deepfakes and infocalypse, as in an apocalypse about information. But let's start with deepfakes. What is a deepfake?
A deepfake is essentially a type of synthetic media. That is to say, a piece of fake media. It can be an image, it can be a video, it can be a piece of text, it can be a bit of audio that's synthetically generated or manipulated by AI. And the ability of artificial intelligence to actually create from scratch fake media is nascent. It's only been around for about 3 to 4 years, and it's progressively getting better.
Now, it's a pleasure to be here in Las Vegas to present to you. Now, I get invited to do keynotes across the globe. And while it's easy for me to be here in Las Vegas, it isn't always easy for me to travel across the world. And even when I do, I can't always speak the local language. Well, what if neither language nor distance mattered for me to deliver a fantastic keynote? What if technology could help me be anywhere I needed to be and speak any language I wanted? Anywhere I needed to be and speak any language I wanted. Anywhere I needed to be and speak any language I wanted. Well, it can. We are bringing together the power of mixed reality and Azure AI services to create a truly game-changing experience.
So this is Node 2. This is a really cool module. Of course, most of these modules you'll see they have 4 sides, and they're put together. That way we could sort of work on a flat plane, either a wall, a floor, another wall, or the ceiling. But, you know, again, all you have to do is turn yourself and your reference changes. The reason I'm bringing that up is because this is where 4 out of 6 of us sleep.
What you're about to see is an exact hologram of me wearing the same outfit that we recently captured at a mixed reality studio. And I don't speak Japanese, but what if I wanted to deliver my keynote in Japanese? Using Azure AI technology, I can translate my English into Japanese and train it to sound exactly like me, the same voice tones, those same inflections. Now we brought this together, my hologram and Azure AI, to show you what's possible.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time, even if they would never say those things. So, for instance, they could have me say things like, I don't know, Killmonger was right, or Ben Carson is in the sunken place, or, how about this, simply, President Trump is a total and complete dipshit. Now, you see, I would never say these things, at least not in a public address, but someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele. This is a dangerous time. Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet. That's a time when we need to rely on trusted news sources. It may sound basic, but how we move forward in the age of information is going to be the difference between whether we survive or whether we become some kind of fucked up dystopia. Thank you, and stay woke, bitches.
So first, I'm going to put on my HoloLens 2 here, and then we'll flip in the room to the special camera so you can see exactly what I'm seeing. Let's get started. First, let me introduce you to Mini-Me. There she is, my perfect holograph. And thanks to the power of HoloLens 2, she just floats right with me. I'm literally holding my hologram, so natural. Now she's a little small to do a keynote. So let's get her up so she can do full-size Japanese keynote. Render keynote.
We're developing technology. Every technology can be used in some negative way, and so we all should work towards making sure that it's not going to happen. And even one of the interesting directions is that once you know how to create something, you know how to reverse engineer it. And so you can, and so one could create methods for identifying edited videos versus real videos.
ホログラムになることには本当に驚くべきことがあります。私たちは最新の複合現実キャプチャ技術を使用し、私のホログラムを作成しています。実在の人物をホログラムとして見たことがあるかもしれませんが、私が実際に日本語を話しているのが新しいのです。私は日本語を話しませんが、私の声とホログラムは完璧な日本語で話しています。これはニューラルテキスト読み上げと呼ばれる最新の人工知能技術、いわゆるニューラル TTS を使用しています。私たちは自分の声の録音を使用し、私のように聞こえる私自身の個人的な音声署名を作成します。日本語からフランス語、ポルトガル語まで話せます。今、この技術は私たちが働き、遊び、生活する方法に関して、世界中の国境や障壁を取り除くことができると想像してみてください。まさに SF が現実になるところです。
A lot of people ask about toothbrush and toothpaste. So, luckily enough, toothpaste, you can do it upside right this way, is sticky, and so it sticks to your toothbrush, no problem. Another cool thing is that water sticks to your toothbrush too. If you can see it, I'll have some water come out. The water is pretty neat up in space. It'll stick to your toothbrush and it will make a big bubble. And that's just by surface tension. And then you can drink it.
This is mind-blowing technology. And what you just saw was my life-size hologram, my exact replica, rendered here in real time, speaking Japanese with my unique voice signature. To do this, we use mixed reality technology to create my hologram and render it here live. Then we use Azure speech-to-text capability and English transcription to get my speech. Then use Azure Translate to get the speech into Japanese. And finally, applied neural text-to-speech technology so it sounded exactly like me, just speaking Japanese. And the most amazing part? All of these technologies exist today. The future is here.
It got me thinking about my full-time employees and their ability to survive on $8 an hour in New York City. And foremost in all of our minds has been the loss and the grief felt by the people of Orlando. Most of us don't get our health care through the marketplace. We get it through our job or through Medicare or Medicare. And what you should know is that thanks to the Affordable Care Act, your coverage is better today than it was before. Women can get free checkups, and you can't get charged more just for being a woman. To give his employees home together to pass a common, there's a bill that would boost America's very, very hard times.
Some progress, at least within the small confines of the legal community. I think it's real important.
Here we go. President Barack Obama. When you're giving a speech, make sure you use a lot of pauses.
America's businesses have created 14.5 million new jobs over 75 straight months.
But this is what she got in 2017 when she asked for longer passages like the first line of a novel.
The year of the island is discovered the Missouri of the galaxy. Like a teenage lying, it always discovered the year of her own class writing bed. It makes no sense.
Compare that to this opening line from a newer language model called GPT-2.
It was a rainy, drizzling day in the summer of 1869, and the people of New York, who had become accustomed to the warm, kissable air of the city, were having another bad one.
It's like it's getting better at bullshitting us.
Yes, it is very good at generating scannable, readable
But if the task is simply to guess the next word in a sentence, the problem comes with its own solution. So the training data can be any human-written text, no labeling required. This is called self-supervised learning and makes it easy and inexpensive to gather data, which means that you can use a lot of it. Like all of Wikipedia, or 11,000 books, or 8 million websites. With that amount of data, plus serious computing resources and a few tweaks to the architecture and size of these algorithms, these new language models build vast mathematical maps of how every word correlates with every other word, all without being explicitly told any of the rules of grammar or syntax. That gives them fluency with whatever language they're trained on. Adam Getchie is a software developer who created a fake news website populated entirely with machine-generated text. He used a language model called Grover, which was trained on news articles from 5,000 publications.
So, okay, let's see what we got.
More than 1,000 years ago, archaeologists unearthed a mysterious flying animal in France and hailed it the winged horse of Opsal, or horse of wisdom.
But yeah, like this is amazing, right? Like, this is crazy.
It's so crazy. Like,
it remains coherent all the way to the end, you know? The animal, which is the size of a horse, was not easy. If we just Google that, like, there's nothing...
It doesn't exist anywhere.
And I don't want to say this is perfect, but just from a longer term point of view of what people were really excited about 3 years ago versus what people can do now, like, this is just a huge, huge leap.
If you read closely, you can see that this model is describing a creature that is somehow both mouse-like and the size of a horse. And that's because it doesn't actually know what it's talking about. It's simply mimicking the writing style of a news reporter. And these models can be trained to write in the voice of any sort, but we may be entering a time when AI-generated text isn't so funny anymore.
Islam has taken the place of communism as the chief enemy of the West.
Researchers have shown that these models can be used to flood government websites with fake public comments about policy proposals. They can post tons of fake business reviews, argue with people online, and generate extremist and racist posts that make fringe opinions seem more popular than they really are.
It's all about taking something you could do and then just increasing the scale of it, making it more scalable and cheaper.
And as bots become even better mimics with faces like ours, voices like ours, and now our language, those of us made of flesh and blood may find ourselves increasingly burdened with not only detecting what's fake, but also proving that we are real.
Before he was a presidential candidate,
And I've been saying for years, keep the oil, don't let them have the oil.
before he was a reality TV star,
You're fired.
Donald Trump was a New York tabloid fixture. All through the 1980s, Trump was busy building something new, and it wasn't a skyscraper.
Billionaire developer Donald Trump has put his name on a New York City hotel, shopping center, and apartment buildings, as well as a casino in Atlantic City. And now he's going to put his name on a big piece of Eastern Airlines.
Trump was creating a public persona, one that could be both funny and demeaning, arrogant and somehow in touch with the common man. But the Donald Trump we know today is more than just a boastful brawler. That's because there's one more tactic that Trump apparently learned in the 80s and uses to great effect on the campaign trail today. Keep people guessing about any long-term plans.
Mr. Trump, what's left in your life? You're 33 years old, you're worth all this money. You say you didn't say that you want to be worth $1 billion now.
No, I really don't. I just want to keep busy and keep active.
Could $1 billion buy the White House? What do you think?
Well,
Does
I don't
money
think it
give
can.
you...
I know a lot of the politicians. I like a lot of the politicians. They're friends of mine.
Trump carefully cultivated speculation about his future. In 1987, he ran a full-page ad in major newspapers that read like a political manifesto.
A blow-up of the ad is now on display at Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue.
The ad was irresistible to the New York press, and the move kept Trump's name in the news.
Trump has said, quite seriously, that he's a good enough bargainer to negotiate a nuclear disarmament treaty with the Russians.
And his shifting positions.
Do you have the genes to be a successful politician?
Well, you never really know. I think I'm pretty outspoken, and that's not probably a good thing in terms of a politician, but it's a good thing if you ever got elected, you can really do a job.
But by playing the role of an unpredictable bully with the Midas touch, Trump showed he couldn't easily be ignored.
I believe that perhaps I'm portrayed differently than I actually am. I believe I'm portrayed in a rougher sense than the actual product. And I hope that's true, because I hope the actual product is a lot more mellow than the portrayal.
And that may be his biggest asset of all. When people attack Trump, they reinforce the version of Trump that Trump wants people to see. And inevitably, that keeps Trump's name in the news.
That doesn't matter because I'm not running for office. That doesn't matter because I'm not running for office. That doesn't matter because I'm not running for office. That doesn't matter because I'm not running for office.
This is a huge potential risk, because if you look at the last 10 years and you kind of consider the crisis of bad information that seems to have become standard in our information ecosystem, fake media generated by AI is going to make it a whole lot worse. And that is essentially what a deep fake is.
Well, let's give an example of what you're talking about here. And we'll show a brief clip here of a fellow saying something that you know, under normal circumstances, he would never, never, never actually say. Here we go. Sheldon, roll the clip if you would.
In this age of information and misinformation, we know deepfake videos have never been easier to produce. For example, it would be easy now to make me say ridiculous things like, "I'm injecting sunshine. That's why my face is orange." Or, "I think I deserve a Nobel Prize," meaning a gift card to half of Barnes & Noble. But instead of doing that, I would like to use this technology to say something useful, like, "I'm sorry."
So it's inevitable that we're going to end up within the next few months, within the next few years, at a stage where, to the human eye, any synthetic media, anything that's generated by AI is going to be indistinguishable from the authentic piece of media. So that's an inevitability. So that's an inevitability. So that's an inevitability. The age of information is actually becoming the age of bad information and disinformation, because we had assumed that all of these technological advances would be this unmitigated good for humanity. And what it is simply an amplifier, as a matter of fact, of human intention. So just as it's amplified the best parts of humanity, it's also amplifying the worst.
And we seem to be, as a species, hardwired to believe what we see on a video. And therefore, talk to us about the implications of believing what we see when what we see is phony.
Well, it's something that psychologists call processing fluency. So when we see visual information that looks right, that looks real, we're hardwired to want to believe it.
Welcome. Suit-up sequence initiated. Biometric signature required.
Virtual and augmented reality platforms are sweeping the world of gaming. There are games that go deep and create richly immersive virtual worlds. And there are games that go wide, augmenting the real world and making the game appear anywhere you go. In 2016 alone, about $2.3 billion in investment poured into companies working on virtual and augmented reality platforms. For some, it's a bet that the technology is poised to cross the threshold from toy to tool.
You're at a water park and you don't know where your child is. With a wearable device, you can see them through buildings, through anywhere. They're over here, they're over there.
I look at these immersive storytelling platforms as the next step in the evolution of journalism.
One of the most straightforward methods simply allows viewers to look around.
On a rooftop above Fallujah, an Iraqi sniper takes careful aim at an ISIS soldier.
When the New York Times' Ben Solomon wrote along with Iraqi special forces liberating Fallujah in 2016, he took a 360-degree camera. The result was a mix of war reporting that you'd see on TV, alongside moments of something unmistakably new.
These are the cells where ISIS would hold their prisoners.
As the door shuts, the freedom to direct your own gaze emphasizes the confinement of the space in a way that a fixed perspective just can't. The fact here is something you feel. But some critics worry that more emotion may be the last thing we need in news. Today, faith in the press has eroded. At the same time, new platforms enable new ways to push our buttons. With fake news stories, videos that can make anyone say anything, and outlets that whip up feelings to reinforce particular points of view.
If a fake Facebook post can trick you now, imagine what an immersive storytelling piece could do to you, right?
The moment at which our bodies and our minds really believe we are someplace else. That is an experience that really threatens deliberation and judgment.
One bad scenario is that everything becomes even more about confirmation bias, and people will just completely disconnect from anybody who doesn't already agree with them.
And this is happening at a time when video is in fact becoming the most important medium of communication. I think 82% of internet traffic next year is going to be driven by the upload and download of video. There's a counter effect to this too, and this is that as knowledge of deepfakes start to grow, something called the liar's dividend starts to enhance. So as people become aware that we're entering an epoch where seeing is no longer believing, you can see something with your eyes that looks genuine and authentic, and it could be fake, then you start to deny the veracity of all authentic media as well. And that is, of course, something that's great for bad actors. In a world where anything can be faked, including something that until now we assume is evidence, everything can also be denied. And there is no doubt that one of the most prolific purveyors of disinformation, not only in the Western world, but in the world period, is Donald Trump, who ironically also happens to be the leader of the free world. You've actually had this quantified in studies. I think it was a University of Stanford study earlier this year where they found that the single biggest purveyor relating to COVID misinformation, both in terms of his reach and impact, was Donald Trump. And you see it right now as well, because this narrative of a rigged election, that somehow there's been widespread orchestrated voter fraud in the US election, is simply untrue. It's baseless. And yet this is something that Donald Trump and his associates have been seeding in the public narrative now for months. It's been starting in April, and this strategy, this disinformation campaign, essentially started as soon as they realized that COVID would lead to more mail-in ballots, and that might actually give the Dems an advantage. We're going to have to develop the software AI-generated software to detect the fakes. We're going to have to do it because there's going to be too many fakes. We're not going to be able to see them. Secondly, we're going to have to inbuild provenance architecture into our information ecosystem as well. So that's writing into the hardwire of our devices the technology that will prove that a piece of media is authentic from its inception. This will be very useful for people like us, journalists, human rights activists, to show that this video is authentic, this photo is authentic, this interview is authentic because it's always watermarked as such. Those are kind of broadly the technical solutions.
If Facebook were around in the 1930s, it would have allowed Hitler to post 30-second ads on his solution to the Jewish problem. So here's a good standard and practice. Facebook, start fact-checking political ads before you run them. Today, around the world, demagogues appeal to our worst instincts. Conspiracy theories, once confined to the fringe, are going mainstream. Hate crimes are surging, as are murderous attacks on religious and ethnic minorities. All this hate and violence is being facilitated by a handful of internet companies that amount to the greatest propaganda machine in history. I believe that it's time for a fundamental rethink of social media and how it spreads hate, conspiracies, and lies. Second, Mark Zuckerberg claimed that new limits on what's posted on social media would be to pull back on free expression. This is utter nonsense. We're not asking these companies to determine the boundaries of free speech across society. We just want them to be responsible on their platforms. Here's an idea. Instead of letting the Silicon Six decide the fate of the world, let our elected representatives, voted for by the people of every democracy in the world, have at least some say. The truth is, these companies won't fundamentally change because their entire business model relies on generating more engagement, and nothing generates more engagement than lies, fear, and outrage. And nothing generates more engagement than lies, fear, and outrage. And nothing generates more engagement than lies, fear, and outrage. As with the Industrial Revolution, it's time for regulation and legislation to curb the greed of these high-tech robber barons. As you say here in the US, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But today these rights are threatened by hate, conspiracies, and lies. The ultimate aim of society should be to make sure that people are not targeted, not harassed, and not murdered because of who they are, where they come from, who they love, or how they pray. If we make that our aim, if we prioritize truth over lies, tolerance over prejudice, empathy over indifference, and experts over ignoramuses, then maybe, just maybe, we can stop the greatest propaganda machine in history. We can save democracy. We can still have a place for free speech and free expression.
But then you have a whole plethora of societal solutions as well. You have to talk about digital literacy, updating our regulatory and policy frameworks, understanding what a society as a whole needs to do in order to become more resilient in the face of these information threats. And I think that's really where a lot of the discussion needs to be focused right now in terms of what do we need to do? Where are the boundaries between free speech and censorship and all of these debates that are so polarizing at this moment? This is a tool that is going to be accessible to anyone because the technology will basically be wrapped up in things like smartphone apps, where anybody anonymously can hijack your biometrics and hijack your biometrics and hijack your biometrics and hijack your biometrics.
I can see how that would affect your Christmas.
I made that whole thing up.
What?
I'm sorry. I guess I just wanted to seem interesting. I guess there's a real danger of that on this show.
There's a pressure.
Well, yeah, yes, people come out and they've run out of anecdotes, you know, and they just start making stuff up. Yeah. Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows?
Neil Armstrong? You mean the first man to walk on the moon?
Talk about a fish story.
Yeah.
Man, and they're buying it. They're buying it. They're buying it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like you don't know what it is. You don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
You don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know.
We don't know.
All the comics and show business don't know what this is. Right? Yeah. Right? Yeah.
What is it?
Come on, Jimmy. Seriously, the time is up. People are hip to this kind of stuff. I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower. I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies. It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati, and you're a part of it, and it is the all-mocking tongue. It's the symbol of the all-mocking tongue. And I'm and I'm sick of it. I want everybody to be in on the joke, man. You know what I mean? For years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile, so you don't know what's really going on. 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 You know, and they get out there in the woods in a circle naked and they decide these things. And, you know, and you know, look at them trying to come with that. It's hilarious, hilarious. And, you know, and I'm sick of, oh, hold on a second. You know what they're trying to do? This thing is buzzing. Hold on. They're trying to turn us into, you know, consumer drones of some sort. Hold on, I just got to get this.
And, yeah.
Férfi ruházat. Ne gondolkodj. Zárva. Vásárolj. Ne gondolkodj. Ne ébredj fel. Hódolj.
Köszönöm.
Köszönöm. Vásárolj. Ne gondolkodj. Ne ébredj fel. Hódolj. Nézd tévét. Engedelmeskedj. Engedelmeskedj. Ne ébredj fel. Nézd tévét. Vásárolj. Engedelmeskedj. Vásárolj. Hódolj. Nézd tévét. Ne ébredj fel. Ne ébredj fel. Ne ébredj fel. Ne ébredj fel. Engedelmeskedj. Engedelmeskedj. Ne ébredj fel. Ne legyenek kérdéseid.
Yeah, listen, I'm in the middle of blowing the lid off some...
What happened?
I'm sorry, Jimmy. I was temporarily interrupted by my iPhone 6 Plus.
That's a big one, huh?
5.5 heads-up HD display. I think what I was really trying to say was I think people really enjoyed Dumb and Dumber this weekend.
And that is what I thought you were about to say.
We should all go to the theater. We should all go to the theater tomorrow and see it. Because we could use a good laugh. Ha, 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 ha.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive
voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.